Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting of November 12, 2018. Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
Campbell. Here. Consul Magno.
Here.
Dixon.
Here.
Gibbons.
Here.
Hannon. Harrison.
Present.
McLean.
Here.
Mowry.
Here.
O'Brien.
Present.
We have all 9 present. At this time, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, at this time, I'd like to turn to chair announcements. There was an executive session of council conducted on October 29, 2018 for legal issues and personnel items. And tonight, before we came out, November 12, 2018 for legal issues and personnel items. At this time, can we turn to the library director's report?
Tim, I'm not hearing you for some reason. I was. Just say something.
Hello? Test, test,
Okay now.
test.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Christine. I'm the director of Your Public Library, where we provide opportunities to explore, learn, create, and connect. We have a few classes and events I'd like to share with you. Our annual gingerbread workshop for families will be held on Saturday, November 24th from 1 to 3 p.m. We'll provide the empty iced tea carton that serves as the foundation of your house and the graham crackers. We ask that you bring a can of icing and a bag of candy to share. We do ask that you register. It's open registration. We just need to know how many to prepare for. Then we have an author talk with Natasha Garrett, who's the author of Motherlands, on Wednesday, November 28th at 7 p.m. This author, she moved to the United States from Macedonia to attend college. She'll be here to read excerpts from her book and discuss the changing patterns of immigration. She uses humor and personal stories to explore what it means to become American and to navigate languages, culture, and identity. And just a reminder that we have technology appointments available for you at the library. We have one-on-one appointments to learn more about your laptop, your e-reader, your smartphone, your tablet. Appointments are 45 minutes long with a librarian. We ask that you bring your charged device and any relevant cord and cables. Dates and times vary, but you can call for an appointment. Fundraising. We are selling 16 by 20 inch prints of the Studious Sloth. They're available for purchase at the library or through the library's website. They're $50 each, and also watch for DECA students from the high school who will be out on Small Business Saturday, November 24th at Evie's and at Bethel Bakery selling the print. And just a few announcements. The library will close at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, November 21st, and we will be closed on Thursday, November 22nd for Thanksgiving. That is all I have.
Any questions? Hearing none,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much. Can we turn to the police chief's report and Chief O'Connor?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Good evening, everyone. Chief O'Connor. On October 27th, in what can be described as an act of pure evil, a gunman shot and killed 11 people at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Squirrel Hill. Responding police officers were also shot, and this caused a request to go out for assistance to local area SWAT teams. 24 members of the Shaycog CERT team responded to Tree of Life. This included several members of Bethel Park Police Department. Together, Shaycog CERT assisted the city SWAT and the other SWAT teams in bringing the incident to an end. I want to point out this is the third call out in the month of October for the Shaycog CERT team. All calls involved individuals with firearms. Because of this, I want to acknowledge the Shaycog CERT team, the members, and I commend them for their dedication to duty and their professionalism. And finally, there is one city SWAT officer, Officer Tim Matson, who is still in the hospital recovering from his wounds. I would like you all to join me in wishing him a full and speedy recovery and return to active duty. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. Any questions? Hearing none, can we turn to the fire chief's report?
Thanks. Good evening, everyone. My name's Bob Brown. I'm the Deputy Fire Chief. I'm going to follow up a little bit on what the Chief just indicated with the horrific event at the Tree of Life Synagogue. One of our firefighters, Adam DeLuca, is also a City of Pittsburgh EMT. Adam was on one of the first arriving EMS units to the Tree of Life. He did assist in treating, we don't know which police officer, but he did assist in treating one of the injured officers. So as the chief indicated, it's nice to recognize we had somebody near and dear to us at the fire company and here in Bethel Park that is, I don't know if I call him a hero, but somewhat of a special first responder. So we just wanted to make special notice of Adam this evening. And also, as the chief said, to keep all the victims, families, friends of this horrific event in your thoughts and prayers for the distant future. And I have the calls for the month of October. We had a total of 40 calls in October, 2 CO alarms. We had 1 vehicle into a house, 1 motor vehicle accident with entrapment. We had 1 call with wires, trees down, 1 call with a person stuck in an elevator, 4 calls for odors of natural gas, 5 mutual aid calls, which means we respond either to responding communities. A lot of times we go into Mount Lebanon to assist them. They in turn respond here to assist us. We had 1 call for an odor of smoke, 1 electrical fire, 2 vehicle fires. We had 1 gas line on fire. If you folks remember, that was the incident on Clifton Road near Route 88. And our bulk of the calls for the month of October, we had 20 fire alarms for a total of 40 for the month of October. And unless there's any questions,
Any questions?
that's all I have.
Hearing none, thank you very much. Can we turn to the mayor's report? And Mayor Allen. Thanks, Bob.
Good evening. As you're aware, today is Veterans Day, so I want to thank all the veterans out there that have served our country in the past, serving our country now, and for the future veterans, thank you for the service. There were quite a few activities today, and one that we always go to is the breakfast at IMS. And the student government up there puts it on. Today, it was totally packed. I mean, you couldn't get in there, and when I see the youth doing things at the Assembly of God this morning, IMS this morning, it's just a great feeling to see the young kids really stepping behind our veterans. So I want to thank them publicly for what they did today. Light Up Night, it's that time of year again. It's it's not December, it's November 27th at 6:45 at the community center, and we'll have light refreshments also. I wanted to mention that we had a terrific year for the Trolley Beautification Project. The people that took on the different flower beds did a terrific job. One of them sitting in the back, Aaron Carter. And not only did they do it one time, but they go back and redo it to make sure it looks nice the whole time. Fall cleanup we had a few weeks ago, we had over 100 volunteers. I mean, it was incredible how many people came out to do the different parts of Bethel Park. We had an incident probably about maybe 3 weeks ago with the Bethel Cemetery with the vandalism. Someone went through, they took flags up, burned the flags, took the markers down and so on. So about 2 weeks ago, a group of people showed up, 40 plus people, and we replaced all the American flags on the graves, and the markers that weren't there, we replaced the markers also. And we actually had, and I hope I didn't miss anybody, but Joe, Tim Mowry, Mark O'Brien, they were all there. And it was a miserable morning. It was rainy, it was cold, but we took care and cleaned up the whole cemetery. And also the last thing I have is to go along with the Christmas season is our annual Christmas tree, or our tree lighting we have in November, but we also have our decoration contest. So we'll be looking for volunteers to judge the lights in the different wards. And if you can volunteer or you can be a judge, if you call us or call Janet Davin, 412-831-6800, extension 211, and we'll have another year of tree or Christmas decorations behind us. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Can we turn to the municipal manager's report? Mr. Arbaugh.
Good evening, everyone. Sean Arbaugh, Municipal Manager. The first thing I want to discuss tonight, many of you are aware that we are going through our long-range plan update. So every 10 years, we update our long-range plan. And we really, really need your help to make sure that we get your input. We want to make sure we have as much input as possible from the community. So tonight I just wanted to kind of step you through with Nicole of how to access that survey online. Again, this is really important that you do this, and we really want to hear your input on developing the community over the next 10 years. So if you go to bethelpark.net, on the left-hand side, you can see Blueprint BP. It stands for Blueprint Bethel Park. That's what we've termed the actual the long-range plan that we're updating. And at the top of the page, when it comes up, you can see survey. If you go ahead and click on surveys, it'll drop down, and the survey you want to complete is the new community asset survey. So if you want to go in there and fill out, it's a pretty quick survey, you can fill out in 5 or 10 minutes, but again, we really want to hear your feedback, and we think it's important to make sure we have the community involved in this process. So please log on and check that out. Thanks, Nicole. A couple other just quick things I wanted to go over. I want to give a special thanks to Jim Adkins. Jim Adkins was a public works supervisor for the municipality who just retired. Today was his last day. He had 41 years with the municipality, hard, dedicated years, and we're really going to miss Jim. Unfortunately, we won't have him for the snow call out tonight. So, Jim, I hope you're sitting at home watching us. Thanks.
He works till midnight, so.
And last thing, I just want to let everybody know a little bit of update on the garbage situation. So in a week or two, you're going to receive a postcard in the mail. The postcard's going to allow you to select a size automated trash can you would like. If you do not make a selection, you will be given a 96-gallon one, which is the largest trash can. It holds about 10 regular size kitchen trash bags. So that postcard will be coming out. We've ran into some computer issues, but we're hoping to get that out by the end of this week or early next week. So any questions?
Hearing none?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We do want to wish Mr. Atkins well in his retirement, and if he asks anybody, when he gets his call tonight at 11:58, it was all Sean's idea. Okay, at this time, can we turn to the approval of the minutes, and Mr. Hannon?
The first one is the regular council meeting minutes of October 8th. I move that we approve the regular council meeting minutes of October 8th, 2018.
Second.
There's a motion and a second that we approve the regular council meeting minutes of October 8, 2018. Any discussion on this item? Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
Campbell.
Yes.
Consul Magno.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
Mowry.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Hannon.
The next is the public hearing of the 2019 preliminary budget. I move that we approve the public hearing minutes of October 22nd, 2018.
Second.
There's a motion and a second that we approve the public hearing minutes of the October 22nd, 2018, 2019 preliminary budget. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
Consul Magno.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
Mowry.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. At this time, I'd like to turn to the approval of the bills and payrolls. And Mr. Hannon.
I move that we approve the bills and payrolls for the municipality per bill list number 111218 in the amount of $1,784,007.66.
Second.
There's a motion and a second that we approve the bills and payrolls for the municipality per bill list number 111218 in the amount of $1,784,007.66. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
Dixon.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
Mowry.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Consul Magno.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. At this time, I'd like to turn to the residents' comment section for non-agenda items. We have 3 people signed up to speak. Mr. Failer, if you'd like to come up and give your name and address. We have a 3-minute limit. We ask at the end of 2 minutes you summarize your comments, please.
Richard Poller, 1119 Logan Road. I'm here to bring up the flooding on Logan Creek again. I don't want anybody to forget about it, and, then it happens again. I got some more information from the borough. In some of the paperwork I found, there's documentation going back to 1964 on my residence of flooding. So basically, since the house was built in 1957, there's been problems there. The municipality's been well aware of it. There's numerous engineering reports, everything on it. I'm just really disgusted by that, 60 years went by on this property, numerous residents, numerous complaints. And the municipality of Bethel Park does not resolve the problem yet. It's a shame. You guys say, everybody likes to say what a great community this is. But when you have residents that 60 years on a property that Bethel Park allowed to be built and probably ruined numerous families over the years, it can't be called a good community. You spend lots of money on lots of different things. I really hope that you guys focus and get a long-term plan to really fix these problems right, instead of putting Band-Aids on them. And then every year when it floods, everybody looks at each other like they're shocked that it happened. It happens all too often. And all I'm asking for is, a real look at what it takes to fix it. I mean, if you guys get an engineering study that says you need to do this, this, and this, I really hope that you guys can come together and actually do it. You shouldn't take anything off the table. Anybody that takes anything off the table up there, that's ridiculous. You guys should be looking at every possible way of fixing these problems for the residents. And, it's not just the fixing of it, but people, selling these homes over the years. I know for a fact that one of my neighbors sold after talking to a member of council. In the dark of the night, basically sold their house and left. So whatever they were told, obviously, made them sell right away and just, hurt another family. So, this comes from inside too, what's going on here. And I just want you guys all to really take a look at it. Everybody while they're sitting around Thanksgiving with their families, think of the hundreds of homes in Bethel that flooded, and some of these people are still working on these homes till this day, 5 months later. And this has to get resolved. I mean, like I said, my home in particular, 60 years. That's too long to wait and get this stuff fixed.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, Jill Peters.
Hi, sorry. I'm Jill Peters. I live at 4790 Chris Road. I just wanted to address the issue of the house at the end of our cul-de-sac again and having the neighbor drive up and down the street, down Chris, through her property and down onto Hilltop, not even stopping to park. It's still an issue. I know the borough has had a private driveway sign put up there, thinking that that might help, but it's still lowering the value of our properties, and I think that when it comes to the needs and wants of all the residents that live on Chris compared to one resident that doesn't even live on that road, even when I provided an information sheet and signed from all the residents that live on that street who have lived there for some 60 years, and they all said there has always been a fence there, that has never been a paved driveway. It should be the burden on her to prove that it's been paved and that it's a driveway. It shouldn't be on us to prove that it's not. So that's I'm hoping that you change your minds and decide to close it off and not allow that to be a form of egress for her to leave her property, because it's not fair to the residents on Chris. Thank you.
Bev Thurner.
Good evening. Beverly Turner, 4802 Chris Road. I also am here to address this problem, and I feel it's a problem. This woman has been coming up and down this street. There is a 25-mile-an-hour sign there. And like Jill said, she doesn't live there. It has never been a pass-through. The fence has always been there. When the houses were initially built, in fact, the house that Jill lives in, in 1964 was not there, and they were thinking of making it a pass-through for the street below, which never materialized. And we've been living there. We're one of the original owners. We moved there in 1964. The fence has been there, and this woman now goes like a bat out of heck. And I can't see why, if one person can use something like that that doesn't belong, why is she allowed? Everybody has a driveway. She has her own driveway. She has a road that she can go through. She claims she can't drive. If she can't drive, then give up your license. Why use another road for an egress just because you think it's more convenient? I can't see that it's convenient. There's children that live on the road. So by her going up and down the road like that, it's not conducive. And the borough, I understand, put this little sign that says private driveway. Looks so stupid. Any 10-year-old could have made a sign like that. Doesn't mean anything, doesn't have any impact. And it's not paved. It's the grass. How can anyone in their true belief or whatever say that that's a driveway? There's no gravel, no cement, no nothing. It's like okay, I'm going to use that. I'm going to go right through and go like a bat out of heck to get out of there. So, I mean, we don't want it. We don't need it. And like Jill also says, it's bringing down the value of the houses. And I did say, and I want to reiterate, last month, a bag of ice was thrown at our front door. Why? Didn't do anything. I mean, we didn't do anything. Luckily, it was fiberglass rather than actual glass, because it would have shattered all over. And we shouldn't have to be worrying all of a sudden about things like that, because one person goes through, they see she goes through, and a lot of other people are going through. I mean, it's almost like seeing somebody on 88 half the times anymore. So I would wish that the council decides, that, and we hope that they'll do something about it. That's not the woman does not have a way of getting in and out of her driveway. She has her own driveway. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other residents who would like to speak on non-agenda items? Hearing none, I'd like to move to the general policy and finance, and Mr. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. President. First item on the agenda under general policy and finance is ordinance number 11-12-18A, tax rate for the fiscal year 2019. I move that we approve the ordinance setting the 2019 fiscal year tax rate in the amount of 2 44/100, 2.44 mils on each $1 of assessed valuation for municipal purposes, and 0.34 mils on each $1 of assessed valuation for the provisions of funding to Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company and costs associated with the same.
Second.
There's a motion and a second that we approve the ordinance setting the 2019 fiscal year tax rate of the amount of 2 44/100, 2.44 mils of each $1 of assessed valuation for municipal purposes, and 0.34 mils on each $1 of assessed valuation for the provisions of funding to Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company and costs associated with the same. Any discussion on this item?
Mr. President.
Mr. Campbell.
Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution is commonly known to as the Welfare Clause. It reads, the Congress has the power to collect and levy taxes, duties, imposts, and excise to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and the general welfare of the United States. Many folks interpret the Welfare Clause to do anything that benefits the citizenry at large, not a particular citizen. That includes like street lights, street signs, storm drains, public safety buildings, public equipment. The flooding that occurred in our town this past summer was catastrophic. I've lived in Bethel Park 60 years, and I've never seen anything like it. I hear people mention everywhere from 100 to 200 to 500 year event that transpired. Certainly, I hope to never see anything like it again. We took a big hit on our infrastructure, and the last I've heard, the damages exceed or close to $1 million so far, and certainly counting. I have no doubt that number was exceeded by a lot of the citizens of Bethel Park, private homeowners and private business owners. I get it. We need to pay our bills. It's the fiscally responsible thing to do. Several years ago, I rallied behind the increase in the millage specifically to go ahead and pay for the fire department and get a new fire station in Brightwood Road. I thought that met the criteria of the Common Clause, or the Welfare Clause. I'm newly appointed to the board. I've only been serving for a little more than 2 months, and as I study and I learn, I've come to realize that it's an incredible bargain in living in Bethel Park. We've recently had some data that was published to us about the municipal rates in millage of how we sit to a lot of the other communities around where we are in Bethel, in Allegheny County, and by far we are the cheapest. If you factor in garbage collection fees, which some of the boroughs assess above and beyond the municipal millage, we are by far the best bargain. However, my only opposition to the proposed millage increase is that it's open-ended. There's no closure. There's no verbiage for one and done. We still pay a federal Spanish-American war tax. A lot of folks don't know that. That dates back to 1898. It's a 3% excise on your phone bill. We still pay in Pennsylvania a state Johnstown tax flood in 1889. That's 18% excise on liquor sales, which doesn't matter to me because I don't drink. But that goes to the PA State General Fund, and that amounts to about $300 million a year. I don't want to vote for a forever millage increase ostensibly to pay for a once-in-a-lifetime flooding event. If this is a one-and-done increase on our taxes, I would support it, but as it is not, and I will not. History teaches us over and over again, nothing is as permanent as a temporary change. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. O'Brien.
You know, at the beginning of 2018, we sat around and talked about how we were going to fund this unfunded mandate from the state, never knowing what the year would bring. In February, it started. Route 30 fell, and it hit all across our county. We hurried. We recorded the data from Bethel Park. We recorded our damage from the February incidents of landslides. We piggybacked that information with an application to the federal government for funding. It was denied. It's currently under appeal by our governor. And then the events of June. We did the same thing. And we still don't have any answer whether we're receiving any federal funding. Although that doesn't help us because we still have to do what we need to do. I think many of us here learned a very valuable lesson that we are alone. We are very much alone in handling our own problems. The events of June were catastrophic, and the solutions for many of these are difficult. We're a community that is fully developed. We're a community that's been developed before any type of water retention or management plans were in place. So some of these issues are very difficult and very expensive. When you don't have land, that makes it even more difficult. Sometimes we look at tax increases and we say, you know, do we need this? Do we not need this? This is kind of this, kind of that. This one here really tugs at your heart because we need to do something. And it's not something that's going to be done overnight. It's not something that's going to be done in a year. It's going to take time. And these are millions and millions of dollars to solve many of these problems. So it's been a really interesting year for Bethel Park. What I really am proud of is the people of this town. They really stood up. They really stood up to be counted and show what people of Bethel Park are made of. They didn't run away.
They didn't have excuses. They're still out there helping people. They're still working to help people through this difficult time coming up on Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I applaud them for that. And I am truly proud of being from Bethel Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. I just have a brief overview. We're voting on establishing millage rate. It's a slight increase over last year. It's really a difficult decision for everybody up here. Where we started the process out is where we were, what do we need to do to maintain our basic services, and where are we looking to improve. Well, a lot of the discussion's been around flood control projects and somewhat we call MS4. There's a lot of other things that are in here that we had to look at. As an example, we have $147,000 for IT and long-range plan. Some of the things we talked about this evening, the manager went over. We're looking to replace the police communications, which is $75,000. We're looking to add an additional police officer for next year. The road program is $1.65 million. Vehicle replacements is about $700,000. When we looked and evaluated what we could defer, and really when you defer, we don't do the roads this year, we do it next year. Number one is you're going to pay a little more in maintenance, and number two, it's going to cost you more next year to do it. So the look we took at the budget was obviously where we can cut, but where do we need in facilities and infrastructure that don't put us behind the 8 ball? We talked about the $1 million we spent on the storms or on the flooding we had in June. I mean, that was truly unbudgeted. Fortunately, we had some reserves. We cut back on some items to make it work because that's what we wanted to do. Our recreation programs, we're reinvesting back in the community. Well, we did a lot in 2018. We're going to do some in 2019. But we're going to delay a little bit of that because we need to reallocate our funding sources to make sure we're providing the basic services to the community. So while we're talking about a lot about the MS floor and projects, a lot of this is the basic infrastructure where you can cut today, but tomorrow you're going to pay even more. And we can't afford to have, whether it's a salt truck down, a police car down, anything with our facilities that's really going to put us in a bad situation. So a tough choice, and that's why we were elected, I guess. And, you know, I've kind of made my decision after thorough review and meeting and discussing with staff. I'd like to thank them for the work and time and effort they put in, answering the questions we had, and not really justifying what was in the budget, but kind of explaining to us, you know, and helping us set where our expectations are. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Any other comments from council?
Yes,
Mr. McLean.
Mr. Hannan, I want to echo what Mr. Mowry was just saying, and what I guess I want to make sure folks understand is when we looked at this situation, both the $1 million that we incurred in 2018 as a result of the flood, the initiatives that we had underway, including with respect to parks and some other things we wanted to get done, and then looked at the challenges we were facing in the coming years to deal with the MS4 requirements and to take the deep, deep look we now need to with respect to stormwater. We knew that this is the kind of thing that we had to address, number one, and number two, we were not going to be able to fix it in 1 year. That what we needed to do, though, was to generate some additional revenue, to do the right studies, and then have availability, the funding, to fund the projects that needed to be done. The situation we wanted to avoid was looking at what is clearly a problem, not being able to address it because we didn't have the funding available to look at it, and then not being able to fix situations when we do find solutions. So, you know, we could have gone much, much, much more aggressively, and we could have done a much, much larger tax increase if what we wanted to do was just see how much can we get done as fast as we can. But that just didn't seem prudent to us. On the other hand, it didn't seem prudent to us either to say, let's just hope that doesn't happen again, and we'll just sort of move along year to year and see how it goes. So what we settled on was what we thought was a necessary but the most modest tax increase we could put in place. It generates about $600,000 in revenue. That's the 0.25 increase. That's less than the $1 million we spent in 2018. But it's enough if we take a multi-year look at this to do the studies that we need to do and then to have the funding so that we can follow through and get the projects done. We can adjust this as we go, But I didn't want to leave anyone with the impression that we do a .25 mil increase, we have that in place 1 year, and now everything's fixed and we can go back to where we were. That's not the approach we took. If we were going to do that, this increase would have been a lot more. So this is the balance we've struck. We know it's not easy on people. It's not easy on us making those decisions, but this is the one we thought was most prudent for the municipality right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Any other discussion?
Mr. Murray, can I ask Mr. Arbaugh, on June 20th, when we received that torrential downpour, how much money did we receive from the county?
We didn't receive any.
How much money did we receive from the state?
Nothing.
And how about the federal government? What did they kick in?
We didn't receive any from the federal government either.
It's called self-preservation. If we want to keep Bethel Park in the condition that we have it in now, we have to invest in Bethel Park, because no one else is investing in Bethel Park. I don't see the state, the feds, or the county giving us money. Because that was a comment from one of my residents. He said, why didn't we go after the federal, the state, and the county? Well, we did. We applied for it, and they turned us down. So if we're going to maintain Bethel Park in the condition that we want it to, I'm the last person that would vote for an increase. But when we need it, we need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Consolmagno. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
Gibbons.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
Mowry.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Campbell.
No.
Consolmagno.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-1. Mr. McLean.
Next item is ordinance number 11-12-18B, the year 2019 budget. I move that we approve the ordinance enacting the year 2019 budget for the municipality of Bethel Park.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. We approve the ordinance enacting the year 2019 budget for the municipality of Bethel Park. Any discussion of this item?
Mr. Murray.
Mr. Harrison.
At the budget hearing, I spoke to the fact that the increase to get the funding that people have been speaking to all comes from an increase in real estate tax. I did a little research and found that about 20% of the population of Bethel Park are 65 years old or older, and 40% of those are male and 60% of them are female. A lot of these females are widows who are living on the pension that of their deceased husbands that's the same this year as it was last year as it was the year before. So except for a little bit of increase in Social Security, they're getting very little additional money, and they're having difficulty taking care of themselves and their property. So I suggested, because this real estate increase would be the second one in the last few years, that we ought to change the budget to collect the money from earned income, and that suggestion was like the lead balloon; it didn't get off the ground. So tonight, I would like to amend the motion to make the budget indicate that half of the money would come from earned income and half the money would come from real estate tax.
Point of order.
Yeah, if I can, we made the motion to establish the tax rate. We're now voting on the 2019 budget. If you were going to amend the tax rate, would have been before you cast the last vote. So I think it's out of order to ask for an amendment on a motion that's already been voted on. Is there any other discussion? Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
No.
McLean.
Yes.
Mowry.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Consolmagno.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Motion to approve the 2019 budget passed 8-1. Mr. McLean.
Next item is an appointment to the Shade Tree Commission alternate. I move that we appoint Aaron Carter to the Shade Tree Commission alternate for a term to expire on December 31st, 2023.
Second.
There's a motion and a second that we approve Aaron Carter to the Shade Tree Commission alternate for a term to expire December 31st, 2023. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
Mowry.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Consul Magno.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. McLean.
Next item is Agenda Item D, appointment to the Shade Tree Commission alternate. I move that we appoint Chris Weber to the Shade Tree Commission alternate for a term to expire on December 31, 2023.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to appoint Chris Weber to the Shade Tree Commission alternate for a term to expire December 31st, 2023. Any discussion of this night? Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
McLean.
Yes.
Mowry.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Consul Magno.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Mr. McLean.
There are no additional agenda items, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Are there any additional items?
I do have an additional item.
Mr. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to discuss with everyone, and I assume most people are aware, but if not, last Tuesday on Election Day, the voters in Bethel Park approved all 4 of the proposed home rule charter changes that were on the ballot last Tuesday. And that effort to put those changes for the home rule charter before the electorate and have them vote on it this past week culminated the work of the Home Rule Study Commission that was started several years ago. In 2014, this council decided that it made sense to appoint a Home Rule Study Commission to take a look at the Home Rule Charter that had been adopted in 1978. It had been 35 years since we had taken a look as a community at the entire Home Rule Charter, and so a Home Rule Study Commission was formed, and that commission met regularly over a period of a year and a half. We had 11 meetings, we had 3 public hearings. We reviewed the existing Bethel Park Charter, every one of the provisions from beginning to end. We looked at the home rule charters of other communities for comparison and for ideas and contrast. We took input from the public with their suggestions about changes. And then ultimately, we produced a comprehensive report that we delivered to Council that included the recommendations from the Home Rule Study Commission. As a result of that work, 9 separate proposed changes to the Home Rule Charter were put before the electorate, and all 9 of those were ultimately adopted by the voters in Bethel Park. So I just wanted to note that because that's a significant event, I think, in the history of this community. We became a Home Rule Charter community by our choice in the late 1970s, and we decided now in 2014 to 2018 to take another look at our charter and to do it comprehensively and to do it with an open process in which we invited the participation of the public. As a result, we came up with changes, and I think as a result, we have an improved Home Rule Charter. And we should remain proud of the fact that we are a Home Rule Charter Committee and that we are capable of undertaking this process of looking, analyzing, discussing, and arriving at suggested changes and then putting them before the public. There are some people in particular that I want to thank as part of that effort. I had the privilege of being the chairman of the Home Rule Study Commission, but all I did was sort of lead the group. It was the group itself that undertook this work, and they did a tremendous job. In particular, I wanted to thank the members of the public who served on that Home Rule Study Commission who were not members of this council, but volunteered their time and made their contributions. And by name, those people are Michael Dobis, Thomas Clavan, Connie Surdy, Carol Stewart, our librarian, Christine McIntosh, and before he was on council, Joe Consul Magno. I can't emphasize the contribution of those people who rolled up their sleeves and got involved in this process and helped produce the, I think, worthwhile civic product that came out of that commission. I also want to thank Mr. Bob McTiernan, our solicitor, who served as a solicitor for the Home Rule Study Commission. He gave us his guidance and legal advice and insight. And Bob is virtually unparalleled when it comes to municipal law. And as we learn through this process, he is also an invaluable contributor when it comes to analyzing home rule charters and discussing what we can do and what we can't do and how we navigate all of that. So again, I want to thank Mr. McTiernan. Then finally, I want to thank the public. I want to thank the voters of Bethel Park who undertook their own effort to understand these proposed changes and to consider them and then to go to the polls and vote for them. You can tell if you look at the vote results from the 4 questions that were on the ballot last Tuesday that people did not go into the ballot and just hit yes, 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 and no, 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 because the outcomes of the vote were significantly different on each question, which means people were going into the ballot, reading it, thinking about it, and deciding, yes, I want to vote in favor of that, or no, I don't. So the public deserves enormous credit. I realize that a lot of times these changes get heavy in the legalese, and we can't control all of that because the county tells us how to express the question. But I can't say enough about the public for having approached this process and undertaken it the way they did and for the results that we ended up with. So the last thing I'll say on this subject is this. We shouldn't wait another 35 years to do this. It's my suggestion that you don't need to do it next year or right away, but maybe in a 10 to 15-year period. It's a great civic exercise to engage the public and to get them more involved in the way we govern ourselves as a community. And so even if you don't come up with any specific changes, it's a worthwhile exercise to take a look at it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. O'Brien.
I'd like to thank Mr. McLean. It's a little bit of a history. His father served on the original committee, Dignity and Honor, and now James has done the same. A father and son, honorable duty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
Mr. Murray.
Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Harrison.
I recommended that people vote against those changes to the Home Rule Charter. I did not expect that they would go down. I expected they'd be approved, and there's no harm done to the municipality because they were approved. But the reason I did that is from my seat here at this dais, I've told the people, and I'll repeat, that I serve with a group of law violators. They violated the law when the ordinance was approved several years ago to put the dedicated tax for the Bethel Park Fire Company on the primary ballot that year. That simply was not was not in accordance with the Home Rule Charter and the Election Bureau guidance. So I just want to highlight the fact that I have problems having to serve with people that don't seem to think they have to abide by the law. And Mr. McTiernan sit there and let me just say that before the vote, I told council that affirmative vote on that ordinance was a violation of Home Rule Charter. Mr. McTiernan did not comment on it at that time, and when this ordinance passed, Mr. McTiernan hand-carried the ordinance to the Election Bureau 27 days before it was effective, because the Home Rule Charter says in an ordinance by this council is not effective until 30 days after it's enacted. And so I just wanted to explain to people. Now, fortunately, next year, 4 of these seats are up for election. The public has another opportunity to convey their concern to the council members if they care to do that. Thank you very much.
Mr. Murray. Thank you, Mr. Annan. Mr. McLean, I do want to thank you. Not only did he lead the commission, one of the things we try to do, and I hate to use transparent when it comes to government, it's an overused cliche, but what we try to do is inform the people of what we're doing. We have clearly talked about these. The commission made their recommendations. We held public hearings. And Mr. McLean went over and above to really put an informational sheet together. To his point, when you read the question, because the county puts it together, you're really not sure what it means. But Jim put a one-pager together, so even I could understand what the question it means. And I do appreciate that, and we circulated it. And I do thank the community, and it truly shows that they care. They were informed, as Jim said, that not everybody voted for everyone, not everybody have voted against it, but I think it was a clear mandate overall that the community wanted to see change. And it's really good. I'm a salesperson to do a lot of post-analysis, but to look back at the charter over the last 30-plus years to see what worked and what didn't. It's our obligation as the leaders of this community to really look at these things and what can we do to make it better. And I think this was a group of people who came together. Some had insight. We looked at everybody. They made a lot of good recommendations, and every recommendation they have proposed to date has been passed. Now to talk about the rhetoric you've been hearing, and if you would have watched last month's meeting, that Mr. Harrison called this a referendum on council and we're all bad people. Oh, we're horrible, vote against it. Well, guess what, Mr. Harrison? I think this is a referendum on you and your actions. I went back and looked at the votes in Ward 5. 63.4% of the people voted yes. So now you're saying, well, it really didn't mean anything. You have next year. There's always next year. We as a group are planning for the future. Some like to live in the past, and Mr. Harrison refers to the swamp, and in my opinion, the swamp is somebody that uses their political or their elected seat for political gain, and that's what Don has done in the last several years. You know, he wants to chastise everybody, whether it's our solicitor, who does a great job, this council, our staff, the community. Everybody's always wrong but him. I clearly think this vote was a mandate on you, Mr. Harrison, and it clearly, every question passed. In the last, every one that the commissions recommended, including the fire tax that he obviously opposed, and he voted against the fire department. But this is a referendum on Don Harrison, and I think the residents clearly spoke. Thank you.
Mr. Maury. Did he recognize me? What?
No. Go ahead, Don. I'm chairing the meeting right now.
Excuse me?
I'm chairing the meeting right now.
Oh, okay. Mr. Hannon.
Mr. Harrison.
Thank you. My great sin is that I believe we ought to comply with the law. I obviously serve with people who don't abide by that, and I'm concerned too. Our solicitor got that job when the prior solicitor was terminated because he did not live up to a ruling that he made relative to a lawsuit that this council, the council at that time, sued me. But I'll tell Mr. Maury, he can chatter all he wants to about the people of the Fifth Ward. In 2 years, we'll find out if you're right, whether they want to keep me or put somebody else here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Any other discussion from council?
Hearing none, we turn to planning and zoning and Mr. Dixon. We have no residents signed up to speak.
Well, Mr. Maury, we have but one item under planning and zoning tonight. That's an appointment to the Long Range Plan Update Steering Committee. I move that we appoint Angela Fisher to the Long Range Plan Update Steering Committee for a term to expire on December 31st, 2019.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. We appoint Angela Fisher to the Long Range Plan Update Steering Committee for a term to expire December 31st, 2019. Any discussion on this item? Mr. Dixon, or excuse me, Mr. Arbage, please call the roll.
Maury.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Consul Magno.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes. Motion passes 9-0. Mr. Dixon.
That's all we have under planning and zoning tonight, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Are there any additional items? Hearing none, can we turn to health, safety, and welfare and Mr. O'Brien?
Thank you, Mr. Maury. There are no items tonight under health, safety, and welfare. However, I have one.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes, today is Veterans Day. I'd like to personally thank all the veterans for their service. In this time, it is necessary for us to thank them. Today is also the Marine Corps birthday. I'd like to wish happy birthday to all Marines. And the flags of the memorial all flying Marine red at this time. And then Memorial Day, and this year is the 100th year anniversary of World War I. And if you look on the memorial, you will notice that there's a star next to a plaque of a James R. Naylor, who actually died in World War I. Through Mr. Mowry's efforts and all the good people in the Bethel Park Historical Society who have been doing the research on finding out who James R. Naylor is, we're gonna recognize him on Memorial Day and have a special presentation so he is not forgotten over 100 years later. Thank you, Mr. Mowry. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Are there any additional items? Hearing none, can we turn to Public Works and Maintenance and Ms. Gibbons, and we have no residents signed up to speak. Thank you, Ms. Gibbons. Any additional items? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone.